Hello, 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 Transurfer and the Transurfing Curious. My name is Renee Garcia, y'all. And this is TransurfingTV, and today on TransurfingTV, the official launch of Chapter 4 of A Tale of Practical Reality Transurfing by me and Lucy Coltrera. This one's on the Induced transition, and boy, oh boy. Not only does the chapter itself come with quite a story, but also the process of actually creating this chapter and everything that comes along with it. I kind of had a little bit of a feeling when I first started this book, this idea that I had that I was going to run each concept of reality transurfing parallel to certain experiences and time periods in my life, in my own personal life. And as soon as I arrived at the thought of doing the Induced transition chapter, I started to get a little bit nervous, and I felt wary about it literally the entire time. Thinking of the process, starting the process, writing the chapter, my God, which I will get into in a moment. And then the anxiety that ensued after I wrote the chapter of having to return to it and edit it and then promote it and all this stuff. I was like, holy fuck, I don't know. Like, I've seen some really, really dark stuff, and as I relay, and I've been to some very, very, very low sectors of reality indeed. And as I relay in the book, you know, I really don't revisit these places in my mind like I used to. I really only do so now if it benefits me in some way, or more valuably, if it benefits somebody else, because really I don't extract too much benefit from it these days. So I will return there in order to do this work, but going back and like, man, if you want to face your shit head on, write a book. Let me just say that. I want to state before I get started and run through the points that I want to make that are pertinent for y'all coming to this chapter. I want to issue a little bit of a warning. I am not a person that is sugarcoating anything, my past, my present, my process, any of it. I'm here to tell you how it is and how it's been, and especially when it comes to talking about the subject, the content of this subject, my interpretation of it. There's a lot of dark shit in here. There's a lot of triggers. So I go over, you know, sexual abuse, drug use, suicide, domestic violence, child abuse, all kinds of stuff. So I just want to issue that warning if you are easily triggered. I never really believed in triggers until I was diagnosed with PTSD after this experience that I talk about in the newest chapter of my book. Until one night I was sitting in my new place and watching some movie, and some incident happened in the movie, and it just stuck with me. And I had one of the craziest, most upsetting nights. It was really the first time I ever felt being truly triggered in a way where it induced me. So writing this chapter, I want to take you there because I want you to know that it's okay. In fact, it's not only okay, it's more than okay. you can actually use whatever has happened in your life, in your past, stuff you're carrying now, abuse you've experienced, abuse you're experiencing, drug abuse, alcohol abuse, all that kind of stuff. You can use, and I'm going to really get into that. That's going to be the meat on the bone of this video. You can use all that stuff to your benefit. However, I want you to proceed with caution, not only in this video, but if you do opt into the book chapter, know that you don't have to white knuckle it all the way through. If you're getting triggered, stop and come back to it at a later time. So again, sexual abuse, violence, drug use, lots of suicide, lots and lots and lots of talk on suicide. So if that triggers you, take a step back if you need. So I'm going to start off with, well, first of all, if you'd like to opt into the chapter, the link is below. You can see all the details, what you get. There's Zoom calls that are happening for each chapter that are pretty epic. Q&As. We have the secret book club on Facebook. We have homework and worksheets that are super powerful. So it's more than just a reading experience. There's audio, there's the PDF, and there's all the extras, a new glossary, the exercises, and again, everything that I just mentioned. So where I would like to start this video, I have become more or less the face, and let me just preface by saying I'm probably going to start crying quite a bit in this video. Actually, I can feel it already bubbling up to the surface. So I'm just going to give it my all, and there's not going to be any cuts. So I have more or less become the face for Reality Transurfing, and I have embraced this role. And a lot of what I do is helping others that I can sense are, you know, going through some of the things that I have gone through in the last 7 years since finding Reality Transurfing. Waking up, realizing that there's got to be a better way, coming to the conclusion that, you know, there are higher versions of self. I really do believe that a lot of people finding this modality are initially asking themselves a question along the lines of, there's got to be something more. This can't be it. There's got to be something more. Why am I in this version of reality? Why do these things keep happening to me? Why can't I let go? Why am I carrying stuff that's no longer serving me? Why am I acting in lower ways? As I did. So I can see, and I don't know if it's like intuition, instincts, some kind of psychic ability, whatever. I don't know what it is exactly, but I can see people just in exchanges. That's the funny thing. I don't even have to be like face to face with the person. Just in exchange with them over text or seeing a comment or engagement on the Facebook group or whatever, I can sense this stuff inside of people. And I want to be an asset for those that need help. I mean, this has been the most meaningful endeavor of my life. I can't even begin to put into words what this has done for me in my reality, putting myself in this position and continuing to do what I can in the ways that I can to help other people come through some of the same challenges that I have come through myself. That being said, I have come through challenges, extreme challenges, that now looking back from the perspective that I have now, I actually can't believe it. I really can't. I mean, being addicted to meth at 14 years old, you know, multiple suicide attempts, extreme abuse, like extreme domestic situations and trusted people, of all kinds, family, and just, absolute chaos. I lived in chaos for the majority of my life. Well, I'm in my mid-40s now, so I'm getting to a point where I can't really say that anymore because I have now had some time to heal and regroup and create very safe, comfortable spaces for myself where I do no longer have the presence of those things. But my personal experience and the reason that I feel having this experience is so powerful in this endeavor that I've chosen is because I want you to know that if you're going through something, that you're not alone. That you're not alone because, oh God, I'm sorry, you guys. Because when I went through what I went through in this chapter, I was alone. I was very much alone. And that's why I'm doing this. That's why I'm doing this now, is because I don't want people to be going through the harsh parts of reality alone, because it's, let's face it, it's fucking terrifying, right? And you know who you are. I know that I have a number of people that are coming to this that are in darkness, and I just want you to know that I've done it. I've come through to the other side. And you can do it too. You can do it too. Believe me, if I could see through what I've seen through, there have been multiple times, not only times where I was officially suicidal, but, there were a lot of other times in my life where nobody knew the suffering that I was going through and I didn't seek any help. So I want you to lean on my experience if you need to. If I can do it, you can do it. And it doesn't matter what it is, or it doesn't matter what it is that you're suffering from. The solution's all the same. So one of the things that has happened as a result of me creating this chapter, again, the induced transition. And for those of you that may be finding reality transurfing or this video and not knowing what the hell it is that I'm talking about, I'll break it down briefly for a moment. In my reality transurfing practice, I like to visualize that I have on any given day 10 layers of reality that are available to me. These are my personal experiences of reality. The top level, level number 10, is the ideal version of reality. It's the best of everything. It's fortune and love and good experiences and feeling good about myself, feeling happy with life, positive thoughts, all the good stuff in life. We also have the rest of the chapters for sale on the website. Link is below. So we just went over the wave of fortune in the last chapter. That's level 10, right? That's the best, the very best of life. Level 1 is what I call the shit vortex. the shit wormhole, it's the worst version of reality. It's you feeling suicidal. It's you not having a positive experience of life. It's you asking yourself, is this all there is? It's you succumbing to some sort of abuse, either via others or yourself. It's you hating your world. And as transurfers know, you hate your world, it hates you right back, right? Your world's just going to agree. I hate you, you hate me. That's level number one. So the induced transition is brought on by a number of external circumstances, information, events, thought patterns, actions, drinking alcohol, that kind of stuff, right? And we succumb to the induced transition, which sort of spirals us down to those lower layers of reality. And when we hit that level one, oftentimes we lose our ability to even acknowledge that there's other versions that exist. It's like we become blinded. We become blinded to ourselves, our reality, and we just succumb to the shit vortex. Oh God. So my journey to this point, and this is where there's some gold for you here. I'm going to give you some knowledge now that for me, someone who has experienced the lowest levels of reality many times, in many different ways, starting at 5 years old, and then my worst, the final time I was on level one at 35 years old. It was 30 years of bullshit, right? 30 years of bullshit. And I kept returning, falling down to those lower levels, falling down, getting dragged down, getting pulled down, people kicking me down, me agreeing to go down. All different ways, chemical, right? Drugs, alcohol, you name it. I had many express trips down to level one in a number of different ways, which I talk about in depth in the book. And finally, when I was 35 years old, I was like, I can't go on. I can't do this anymore. I can't keep finding myself in a fucking mental institution on the brink of suicide. I just can't do it anymore. And I knew that I needed to do something with what was in me, this suffering, this pain, this continual focus on the negative, me hating my world hating me right back, all that stuff. I knew I had to do something with it because I just kept returning to it. I just kept, I would go to therapy and, okay, what's wrong? And I talk about the same old stuff that had happened 30 years ago. 30 years ago. And I'm like, okay, why am I not leaving this? Why am I still haunted? Why am I still afflicted? Why won't this go away? And what I realized is now, I've realized this in the process of writing this book. I realized that I had to do something with that pain. I had to do something with that trauma. I had to do something with that suffering, that deep, deep to the bone suffering, like when you catch a chill in the winter and you go inside and you warm up, or your external body's warm, but you still feel that chill inside. That was with me, even in a small way, up until just recently. And this is turning lead into gold. This is alchemy. This is turning water into wine. This is letting go. This is transmuting that pain and suffering like a motherfucker, taking it and converting it to something useful that will benefit someone or something in my reality externally. This is like the final point on the sentence, the period, the exclamation mark, right? This is me taking that stuff and using it to create something positive in my life. So what has happened as a product of this is nothing short of like, I mean, I want to say a miracle, but that's not even the right word. I have freed myself. I am liberated. I have no reason left to carry any of those things with me. And not only that, I've realized now that the reason that I was carrying all of those things with me was so I could arrive to this point and do this thing with it and actually be effective in helping another person. I mean, it's the biggest mind fuck of my life. I've never had any idea that I could not only find myself to this version of reality. I mean, this in itself is a goddamn miracle. I can't even, as I was miking up, getting ready to turn on the camera, listening to my music, putting my jewelry on, thinking about all the stuff in my life that I'm grateful for, writing out my notes on what I want to talk about, I actually teared up and I'm like, I can't believe I'm here. I can't believe, first off, that I'm even alive. And when you read the chapter, you're going to be like, God damn, she should have been dead, a long ass time ago. One, I can't even believe that I'm alive. Two, I can't believe that I have been able to get out of that level 1 and experience the level 10 now, live on level 10 and level 9 and level 8. I never have to go back to level 1 ever again. I'm like, holy fuck, this is amazing. So on top of it, the cherry on top is that now I get to take all that stuff and I get to show you that it's okay and tell you a trick that I've learned that could help you to really leave behind anything that is no longer serving you. Figure out a way to do something with that that's positive, that you can hand to your reality. And in doing this, all of that suffering, all of those induced state feelings just dissolve. And I feel the happiest I've ever felt in my entire life. I feel like I have been freed. And, I thought that it was good before. After doing this chapter, which I was terrified to do, I'm coming out on the other side and it's absolute magic. So what happens to us and what is happening to you now if you are continuing to find yourself back at lower levels of reality is that you have weights on you. You have weights, and these weights are all sorts of things: memories, people, circumstances, things in your life that pendulums have convinced you that you can't get rid of because it's not right. But you keep them in your life and they continue to affect you, and those things act as weights. There's no simpler way to put it. Family is one of the biggest ones. And, you know, this is a challenging one for me to speak of because I don't want to urge anyone to cut off family. I can just talk from my own personal experience. I, at a certain point, realized that every time I was around my mother, I had to turn off this version of me and turn on the lower version of me. Because if this version of me was around my mom, she got abused, right? She got kicked in the face and little comments here and there. And it seemed like the better I did, the more my mom disliked me. And I was finding myself every time before doing something with her, I would consciously have to be like, okay, how can I dumb myself down now? I have to dumb myself down. I have to make myself seem more vulnerable. I have to kick into like piece of shit mode, you know? Like I have to connect to my lower self. So this was a weight in my life. This was keeping me down. And when I decided to cut that off, again, lots of pendulum kickback on that one. My grandparents don't understand. How can you just cut your mother out? Siblings, how can you do that? I'm like, man, if you don't get it, you don't get it. But it's not my place to have to explain it to everyone. I do better without the presence of my mother in my life. When my mother's in my life, I'm not my highest self. Bottom line, I don't got to explain this shit to anybody. So it comes down to your pendulums. What pendulums? If you are in fact revisiting level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, right? 5 is about midway. 5, if you're there, good. You at least you're ground zero, right? You're level ground. But if you're below that, the majority of the time, or even half the time, or even more time than it's comfortable for you, what pendulums in your life are you not adequately managing? So pendulums affect our frequency, our thoughts. They're like, we become host bodies for pendulums that feed us all kinds of things that keep us lower, right? Situation with my mom, perfect example. I was the host body for her dysfunctional bullshit. And before hanging out with her, I would go into host body mode. Okay, lower yourself and let this pendulum do its thing, because if not, there's too much friction and it just creates a lot of pain for everyone, right? So I tried to manage that for a while, and finally I realized there's no managing it. So I'm going to put that back onto you now. What is in your layer of reality that's affecting you, and what sort of excuses are you making, or what programming are you buying into that is keeping this situation present and keeping your circumstances unideal? Maybe not all the time, but maybe some of the time, enough to where you can say you're not living your ideal version of your reality, or you're not living the highest version of you. So pendulums are the weights. Trauma is a pendulum. Dissolving it, dissolving the trauma, releasing yourself from that weight is transmuting that pain and suffering into something that is useful in your environment. This is how you cut it and let go and ascend to those higher layers of reality. I know a lot of people are going to say easier said than done. For me, personally, it's been a matter of life and death at times. I've got a powerful mind, and my mind has again convinced me at least half a dozen times in my life that I should not be on planet Earth anymore. So for me, releasing that stuff, letting go of it, cutting those lines and dropping those sandbags and allowing myself to go up was absolutely necessary, because level 1 for me is oblivion, right? For some of you it might not be, but for me it's oblivion, and I would much rather be on level 10 than not be here. Those were my options. So another thing that I want to touch on, and this is something that has been kind of like a slow burn process over the last, I would say, 2 to 3 years. Getting my reality in shape, getting my layer of reality cleaned up, getting my pendulums managed, myself highly successful, free, doing the things that I want, living the life that I want, ascending to my higher self, being in my highest version of reality, all that stuff. And then still at moments feeling suffering and beginning to think, oh my God, what's wrong? What's wrong? I'm on level 10. I'm on level 10. Things are going well in my life. I'm in a very healthy romantic relationship with somebody that takes extremely good care of me. I've got money in the bank. I've got all the stuff that I find valuable. I'm on level 10, level 9, level 8. Yet I'm still feeling at times moments like I'm in pain, or that something's just not right, or that I'm suffering in some way, right? Emotionally. And at first, I would do this thing where I would be scanning my world. Where's this suffering coming from? How do I get rid of it? Where do I put it if I find it? How do I, and as Reality Transurfing presents to us, we always get what we actively don't want. Focusing on a little bit of suffering when 95% of the picture is ideal starts to shrink down that picture, and the suffering begins to expand. And I lived like this for a while, somewhat panicked, not knowing how to deal or what was going on. And then I realized suffering is an absolute mainstay of the human condition. And if you're attempting to eradicate it from your reality entirely, in the book, I refer to it like a Chinese finger trap. The harder you pull, the tighter the trap gets. So accepting suffering and letting go of this idea that there's an extinguisher of some type that's going to eradicate 100% of your suffering. And then once your suffering's eradicated, then extinguished, neutralized, then you can go about living your life and enjoying life and being happy and all that stuff. And what I'm presenting to those of you who are still battling yourself, trying to figure out where that suffering's stemming from, what you need to do with it, how it's affecting you, all these different things of trying to manage the suffering, accepting this way of the state of being that you can have it all, that you can have it all, that you can be happy, you can have what you want, you can live the life that you want, you can go in the direction of all that you want, your highest self, your highest ideal, your goals, your dreams, all that stuff, and take along that suffering with you. And returning back to where I started, transmuting it and figuring out a way to spin that lead into gold. This is where it's at. This is what I've learned. I would not want to be 100% free of my suffering right now. My suffering is part of me, and it's part of my experience of life. It's part of what has found me to this place. Why would I try to deny myself that now? It has produced so much this far. So far, it's produced so much. Do I doubt that any continual suffering isn't going to bear fruit later down the line? I've seen it now, so I think I'm good to go, And I want you to know that you are not your suffering, and there's something good you can do with it. I promise you that. I absolutely promise you that. So letting go of this dualistic thinking as well. Not suffering is good. Suffering bad. Not suffering is good. Suffering bad, and we're flip-flopping in between these two states of being as humans. I know that I've talked quite a bit on this channel about some of my nihilistic viewpoints. And nihilism for me, man, talk about a freaking game changer. Non-duality, that a lot of our challenges in life, a lot of our messes that we make, a lot of the chaos that ensues in our layer of reality is simply a product of us going around and throwing into good and bad piles. This is good. When I make money, that's good. When I fall in love, that's good. When I am not suffering, when I'm, feeling like I'm, having a good sex life or having positive experiences or things are going well, it's good, 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 good. And then, something happened to me today that isn't in line with the version of reality that I've pressured my reality to give me. That's bad. I woke up today and I'm feeling confused, or I'm suffering, or I'm in pain. That's bad. These external circumstances that are playing out around me that I have no control over, that I let affect me in a negative way. Those are bad. These good and bad piles, the dualistic thinking. This is like, and I've talked about this in the last chapter, The Wave of Fortune, these little seeds. We have all these seeds in our realities. Good seeds, bad seeds. We plant these seeds and we say, okay, this is bad, and you focus on it. What does it do? Exponentially creates more seeds. And then before you know it, you've got a shit tree. You've got a shit tree. Then you got these positive seeds, And you can focus on these positive seeds and you can grow a really beautiful tree with all the things that you want in your world. So doing this dualistic thinking and overly focusing on what it is that you don't like, the fact that you're suffering, putting suffering in itself into a bad category. In my chapter, I talk about somebody very close to me committing suicide and how it happened exactly. Extremely traumatic for me, it was. And even to this day, I'm still surprised. I can't believe it. I can't believe he did that. Now, he was living in this dualistic modus operandi. He was overly focused on the bad all the time. He was constantly playing into that bad pile, to the extent that he got sucked into the shit wormhole and he didn't see a way out. So he ended his life. And I walked with that with a ton of fucking insights, man. I've seen it. And I, again, am taking that lead and I'm spinning it into gold. So one of the things that I also talk about in the chapter is chemical ascension, using drugs and alcohol to enhance your experience of life, which is fun sometimes. I'm getting ready to go on the first vacation that I've been on in like 5 years. I'm probably going to get my drink on. I'm probably going to buy a pack of cigarettes. I'm not smoking these days. I'll have a cigarette maybe once a month, once every 2 months. But I'm kind of like, I'm going to let loose and I probably have a few drinks, probably going to smoke a couple cigarettes. I'm going to entertain my lower self on this trip. I've got a babysitter. I'm going to entertain my lower self. Now, I'm not going into it naive. I'm not going into it naive. I know what state of mind, state of being I need to be in order for me to partake substances that are going to allow chemical ascension. You ascend, you go up to some of those higher layers of reality, you're living it, you're out at clubs going, but the next day is down, right? Because when you ascend chemically, you borrow energy, you go up to some of those higher levels of reality, but you don't return to where you were when you chose to chemically ascend. You go lower than that because you're borrowing energy, but that energy must be paid back with interest. So nothing is exempt here, unfortunately. I know some people have messaged me and they're like, have you ever tried ayahuasca? Oh, you will. It blew my mind. It took me, and I'm not trying to talk shit about people that take ayahuasca. I'm just talking about my experience of what it is that I've seen happen. I have a lot of people message me telling me about these substances, ayahuasca, San Pedro, there's a bunch of other ones. And I'm like, yeah, good for you. That's not for me, because I know that it will cost something. Ultimately, it will cost something. And just a little side note, all the people that I've known that have done San Pedro or ayahuasca for therapeutic benefits, they're all temporary. They go back to their lives, sometimes even worse than when they started. So I don't see much proof that anybody's really benefited long-term from any of this stuff. That's on the heavy end, and other heavy drugs. hallucinogens, mushrooms, all that kind of stuff. Then you've got alcohol. Alcohol is alcohol. Even if you're having a glass of wine at night, you're just giving yourself a little bump, but again, you're going to have to pay that back. It's going to be a dip down. The more you drink, the further down you go on the interest payment. Cigarettes, same thing. You feel good, and then you feel like crap because you feel guilty or you feel shame or people in your life are giving you a hard time. Smoking weed, all of it, none of it is exempt. None of it's exempt. So I do know that a lot of people in this modality, in this community, are continuing to use drugs and alcohol, which is totally fine. But if you feel as though you aren't where you want to be in your life right now, it might be time to give some of that shit up. They're weights. It's bringing you back down. It's bringing you back down. Letting go of places. This is another big one. Again, people, places, circumstances, jobs, anything that is part of your current set in decorations that is doing something to you mentally to where you feel as though you are not living your highest and best. Might be time to rethink it. It might be time to rethink it. I'm now living in a part of the world, in a part of the United States that I don't know anybody. I left a lot behind. I bought a home in my hometown about 5 years ago. I thought it was a really awesome move at the time. And then I realized shortly after that my house was great and I loved my lifestyle, but I returned to a layer of reality where there was the presence of people, places, things. I was driving with my partner through this neighborhood. We were looking at nicer homes, and we drove past a group home that my mother was notorious for dropping me and my sister off and literally pulling us out of the car, screaming and crying and throwing us on the lawn and taking off, So I needed to leave that behind because that was affecting me mentally. So is there something that's affecting you mentally right now that is creating some vibration deep within you that is putting you down to those lower levels? I don't know how to say it any more simply than that. This is about assessment. This is about inventory, a real inventory. This is about you taking accountability as the sovereign creator of your reality and you deciding what stays and what goes, your direction, what's going to help you get there, and what is holding you down to some of those lower levels of reality. So, to wrap this video up, I just want to say that I am incredibly grateful to the community of people that have embraced me in this role that I've taken on, and I take it very seriously. I don't really like to say serious or important anymore because of their excess potential building qualities. But I'm extremely honored, and I do feel as though if I can overcome the things that I talk about in chapter 4 of the book, if I could see those things through to the other side, You absolutely are capable of that and more. I'm still a flawed person. I still have my bouts of suffering. I still have, I still have doubts. I still have all the human stuff, My humanness is just as real as anyone who's coming to this modality fresh and still in their shit wormhole. I'm just higher up out of it, right? Because I've been doing the work. So this, I feel, is possible because of this ascension, is possible because of this exact place in this community, in this role. I'm living I live a meaningful life now. I wake up in the morning, I'm excited to figure out what I can do with the bullshit to make it worth something, to make it tangible and valuable and do something positive. So I want to leave you with this. And again, if I'm talking to you, I know there's a number of you that are still extremely challenged with certain circumstances and things, fresh things that are going on in your life right now. I want you to just throw it out into your world of how you can take whatever that pain and suffering, depression, anxiety, feelings of life not having any meaning, you not being your highest and best, all that stuff. How can you take all of that and glow it out into your world in some way? I know that sounds like an odd way to say it, but it's the only thing that comes to mind. How can you use it to create in your world starting today? This is how you not only ascend, but you never return to those lower levels of reality. And that's what this is about. And I know a lot of people come to this modality and there's this roller coaster thing going on, right? This up and down, and I experienced it. I've got literally hundreds of messages and emails over the years from people saying, I was so high when I found transurfing, and then all of a sudden I'm down on level 1 again. And then I find myself back up and I fall down. And then I find myself back up and I fall down. It's destabilizing. It's confusing. It's not a pleasant way to live. It's about stabilizing and never again returning to level 1. And check out the video, How to Become a Full-Time Transurfer. I talk about some tips in there to stop that roller coaster of a lifeline, life track roller coaster. And I'm just mesmerized. I'll really, truly wrap up this video with this. I am mesmerized that today I can honestly say that I never have to return to level 1 ever again. I never have to find myself there ever again. I have raised the bar. There is no more. My level 1 now probably looks like, maybe experiencing some loss, business deals not going through, stubbing my toe. It's not what it used to be, It's not what it used to be. I have truly transurfed my layer of reality and converted my world into a place where that prior level 1 doesn't even fucking exist anymore. It doesn't. So, I'm so relieved to have this experience, to be able to process everything in the way that I have. I'm happy that I did it. I'm happy that I have it done. I'm happy that it didn't induce me like I thought it was going to. Quite the contrary, it blew me up a layer of reality. And I'm just really grateful to everybody. I want to thank everyone for all your support on the last chapter. That was fucking mind-blowing that as many people opted in and bought the stuff, and thank you so much. We're giving chapters away for free to people who can't pay for them, and it's really a beautiful thing that's going on with the International Transurfing Institute. So I just want to thank everybody, and keep going. Don't stop. I promise you there is a way out, but you have to show your reality that you really want it, and you got to keep going. So with that, I will bid you all adieu, and thank you so much for watching. Have a good one, guys. Bye.